It's 6:37. Time to take a look at your money. The ongoing war between Israel and Iran has already created tremendous uncertainty in the global energy markets. And this morning, that's intensifying after on Saturday, President Donald Trump ordered U.S. military airstrikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities. But how will this recent escalation in the Middle East impact your pocketbook as millions of Americans hit the open road during summer driving season? And also, how might this affect your utility bills as more and more Americans turn on their air conditioner during these hot summer months? Financial advisor Mark Ravicheski is joining us now on Zoom to break it down for us. Good morning, Mark.
Ava, great to see you again. We're having a few technical difficulties. We're going to work through them, though.
I know, that's just how it goes. Hey, it's a Monday, right? Okay, so
That's right.
Mark, what was the rationale behind these airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities?
Yeah, one of the reasons Israel started its first attack, ran back on June 13th, was to destroy Iran's nuclear program. Iran states its nuclear program is to, simply provide energy to its population. Other nations, especially Israel, argue Iran's ultimate goal is to weaponize its nuclear program. That either Iran or through Iran's proxies of Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis will use a nuclear weapon against Israel. Now, at the center of this debate, Ava, is the level of purity that Iran has enriched its uranium. To provide nuclear energy, for civilian and commercial use, experts say that uranium only has to be enriched to a 3 to 5% purity level. However, many experts argue that Iran has currently enriched its uranium to a 60% level of purity. And it's not too far away from that 80 to 90% level of enrichment they say is needed to create some type of nuclear weapon.
And Mark, why does any conflict in the Middle East tend to have such a large impact on the global energy markets?
As we kind of touched base a little bit last week, Ava, back in October 2023, when Hamas first attacked Israel, one of the bigger economic concerns was if this conflict really spread out across the broader Middle East region. That region is home to some of the largest crude oil and energy deposits in the world. The Middle East, Ava, produces about 31% of the world's total crude oil. By the way, it also produces about 17% of the world's total natural gas. That crude oil output, Ava, is led by Saudi Arabia, which produces 11% of the world's total crude oil and is the second largest producer behind the United States. But you also have Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Iran, and Kuwait, who each individually supply between 3 and 4% of the world's total crude oil supply. But the region is also home to the Straits of Hormuz, which is off Iran's southern coast. The Straits of Hormuz is a major sea passage for the flow of crude oil and other energy products to the rest of the world. And in the past, Iran has placed explosive mines in that waterway to try and disrupt that flow of transport ships in and out of that region.
And Mark, what's the latest reaction we're seeing in global energy prices from these airstrikes on Saturday?
Well, since June 13th, Ava, crude oil prices have risen over 10%, while natural gas prices are up over 11%. Looking at some of the pre-market indicators, crude oil is up about another 1%, whereas natural gas may be up 0.5%. Obviously, we'll see how things pan out over the next couple of days. But look, the U.S. is the world's largest consumer of crude oil. Each year, the U.S. accounts for roughly 20% of the world's total crude oil consumption. Crude oil is also America's #1 energy source. On average, Ava, crude oil supplies about 38% of our nation's total energy use. From that single barrel of crude oil, we get gasoline, diesel fuel, jet fuel, kerosene, heating oil, and many other distillate products. The U.S. is also the world's largest consumer of natural gas. In fact, natural gas is America's #1 source of electricity. And as you mentioned earlier, it's that electricity that powers those air conditioners in these hot summer months. And in the wintertime, natural gas is also used as a source of heat, whether it's to heat our home, water heating, or in cooking. in 61% of all U.S. homes. In the Midwest, Ava, that number jumps to 74%.
Wow, all
So
very
obviously,
important.
we rely a lot on fossil fuels.
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. And we'll see you next Monday.
All right. Enjoy your week, Ava. Take care.